You'll also see I've got some examples that you can download from. These are straight from a professional stock photography website. So I want to give you what a professional would also work with, but also show you some free things that you can find online. First of all, you can look up what are called dingbat fonts. What is a dingbat? Does anybody know that definition? Hmm? Sounds familiar. Symbols? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's essentially symbols that are made up of a font. And I think there's actually a font called Dingbat. To tell you what, I'm going to type out a few letters. Let's see if I have it saved up on my computer. You can go to Character, down at the bottom. So there's Zapf Dingbats. If you zoom in closely, you can see these other little symbols. They don't even show up as a name. But anytime a font has a symbol instead of letters, that's called a dingbat font. That's just the name that it shows up for. Zapf Dingbats is one of the more popular ones that's on almost every computer. Sometimes a font will have something called an ornament. I think Hoffler text. So I'm going to search for, there it is, Hoffler text. It's got regular fonts that go with it, but Hoffler is also a really good printing type font, so they include some nice ornaments that you can use within your design. It does take a little bit of playing around to see what each of these fonts are. I've actually got an entire file where I typed out the entire alphabet, uppercase, lowercase, all the different characters, and then all I have to do is select those characters and change the font, and so I can see exactly what it is. To give you some other advice on it, so if I typed it out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, you notice a little trend there? Like A and B tend to go together, so I can type A's and B's and they work really well. These two tend to work really well. Don't forget you can hold down the Shift key and get other types of designs. Sometimes the numbers. Another type is if you hold down the Option key. Sometimes, there we go, you can get other little fonts. In this case, it's actually not typing them out, it went to another type font. But holding down the Option key and typing in letters and numbers will give you different characters to work with. Let's change it to Zapf Dingbats and see what I can get with. Is it working? Nope, still going to Mirrored Pro. Oh well. But Shift key, Option key, Shift and Option key will give you even more fonts to work with depending on wherever it's made. So if I was to look up some of these type of fonts, how do I know what these little patterns would be called? What would you call, if you had to do a Google search for this type of design, what do you call it? If you had to make up a name for it, how about that? Twirly-doos, Squirrely-bobs, Wispy swirls. Hey, that actually sounds pretty good. Let me do a wispy swirls. Let's do an image search for that. Not too much for that. I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. I've written actually on the board what these things can be called. The highfalutin term is called filigree. So if you want to find these type of things, and the reason why I'm showing you these are because these are most popular in the type of designs we're doing. But filigree, trace work, scroll work, those are all the three most popular types of this design decor you can do. There's also floral patterns, and sometimes they'll mix those in with flowers, or fretwork. Fretwork is a type of woodworking where it's really intricate. So let's do a search for filigree and see if I can pull up something. F-I-L-I. Filigree. There we are. Filigree is a little bit more fancy. It starts to get into sometimes the shadows that we're working with. Scroll work will get a little bit closer. So here's scroll work type things. And these are the things you can do with a calligraphic pen. Calligraphic scroll work is a specific type. So if there are entire fonts that you can do a search for where all you got to do is type it out and they've got these pre-designed for you. So if I did a search for scroll work font, of course I'm in Google's image search, you can find specifically characters that have scroll work in it, or sometimes you can find entire fonts that have these in here. Let's see, letterhead fonts. So here's a font I can download and type out these characters and use them within my design. And you know, once you type it out, so let's go back up here. I think, let's use Hoffler text. We'll change it to the ornaments. Once you find the ornament or the style that you like, remember you can go to Type and Create Outlines, and now you've got the actual vector images to work with. I've given you one font that I found. I found this on dafont.com. Let's back it up. I think there it is. It was called Nymphet, and it's just got these simple little scrolls that you can type out and work with. Let's see. So if you went to today's Moodle page, there's the TrueType font. I'll click it and download it. And remember, if you want to install a font, simply click on the font file. It'll ask you, do you want to install it? And if there's no problems, now I've got it on my computer. So let's type out some other stuff again. Typing random letters. NY, there it is. And so now I can use this type of scroll work within my design. This is totally legitimate. This is what graphic designers do a lot, especially if it's a free font. Feel free to use these things to inside of your design. Let's say I really like this design right here. Oh, I like that one on the end. So if I wanted to use it, I can take it, scale it up as necessary, convert it to outlines, and now I can find a place within my design that it would fit, it would plug into. Sometimes these work really well to add little tails, say to the end of the M if I wanted to give it some scroll work, or if I can, in this case, just filling in a negative space type area that way it doesn't look like such of a dead area that I couldn't fill in with the letter or with another word. Of course, you can also need to change your color, that type of thing. Scale it down, rotate it, flip it. This is your design. Make it happen. All cool? So that's one way, is finding dingbats that you're working with. If you have a specific thing, like I know Keith has got a very cowboy type font. Let's see if I can find a cowboy dingbats. So here's some great, I'm just going to do the image search. But here's obviously a font that's got cowboy type images that you can pull from. If you can find the font, especially if you can find it for free, download these, use these to fill in the specific area. Cool? The second way is to actually find a vector file. And there's lots of vector resources. You can go online and type in, let's see, vector files. Let's see, vector graphics, file formats. Here's vectorstock.com. So this is a image stock photography website where you can probably download or purchase, sometimes for free, sometimes you have to pay for it. But these are pre-made things that are designed by other people. Like I said, sometimes you have to pay for these, but the upside is usually it's a lot better quality. You'll save a lot of time if instead of spending 5 hours making something that looks halfway good, finding exactly what you need, paying $5, and using that within your design. Because you're paying for it, you actually have the rights to use that. Now for this class specifically, I want to see you work. I want to see you understanding how to do this and not pulling from somebody else. So fair warning for that. But there are great websites. Does anybody use any type of stock site or free site? I think Vecteezy. Yeah. This is kind of a more popular free downloads for vector stock images and stuff. I apologize for anything that comes up I have no control over. But so this is featured free vector art. Hey, here's ribbon work. Now in this case they're using ribbons for this type of way, but you can download it and you can see the type of file it is an EPS file. EPS is the electronic PostScript. It's a vector file, and that's the type of file that you can download into Illustrator. And here's other buttons, here's other type of scroll works that I would suggest. Sometimes just be careful, these will take you to paying sites where you have to pay for it to be able to download it. But these places do exist. Two of them that I've given you, one place that I had a subscription to, so I've saved a lot of their stuff, was Shutterstock.com. This is just a great little stock photography, but you have to pay for the stock photography. The best thing about using a stock photo website to find resources and images versus Google is this gives you exactly what you're looking for. So if I know I wanted to find a filigree border, it'll even suggest exactly that. Let's see what. So now it's giving me some great different ideas to work from. Here's some patterns that you can use and reuse. I use this all the time just to get ideas, just to say, hey, I can do something like that, and then go make it my own, go create my own little thing from here. Once you download these, however, so I'm going to download the ones we have from our website. There's this one, and there's usually a number associated with it. That way you can find it again. We'll save that one, and let's get the second one too. You need to know how these are formatted because everybody works a little differently, and your file is going to be set up differently than others. There are some little tidbits you need to know about. So the first one I downloaded, let's open up this one. These are some little, open it up in preview. Remember, if you open it in preview, it's going to save it as a PDF, and we don't want that. I'm going to drag it into Illustrator. There we go. So these are little filigrees that I want to work with. When I go to select it and move it around, notice that they're all moving at the same time. Why is that? What's wrong with this artwork? Why can't I select one thing? Come on, my intro class. I know I taught y'all this. Huh? It's all grouped together, exactly. So if you select something and you only want one thing, first thing you got to make sure is, do they group everything together? You can go to Object and Ungroup. Now if I wanted specifically this, I can select this one and copy and paste it into the file that I'm working on. Copy, paste. Now it's in here. I can change it to white. I can start using it to work with. So when you download something and you just can't select it, you just can't work with it, make sure first of all that it's ungrouped. Here's the second problem that a lot of stock photo places will work with. And the problem is with this file. So when I select this one and I start moving it around, well, they're all moving together, so maybe it's grouped. So I'm going to go to Object and Ungroup. Alright, well, they're still moving around. They're still together. Object, Ungroup. Still not working. The problem in this case isn't that they're grouped together. It has something special, I don't think we've covered it just yet, called a clipping mask. And if you want to read more about them, I wrote it on the board on page 15. A clipping mask allows you to mask out certain areas. And in this case, it's in the shape of a square. Here's how to unclip it, how to break it apart. I'm going to go to Object. There's the clipping mask, and I'm going to release it. Notice what happened when I released it. Now I've got a larger area. What it was doing is it was masking out all of this extra stuff. Now I can go in and actually select the pieces that I want to work with. The reason I'm showing you this is if you ever want to use this type of artwork, this is how most professionals will format it. So I want you to be aware that you can use it, but sometimes you have to reformat it and ungroup some things, else things tend to go wrong. Copy it, paste it, move it around, and move from there. So the two things to look out for when you download it is it grouped together, as in this case, or is there a clipping mask, as in this case? Final thing I want to show y'all. How do you create your own? It's one thing to find something that somebody else has done, but wouldn't it be great if I can just do something customized specifically for the font that I'm using? I used to do this a lot for t-shirt designs. If you're on a baseball team, a lot of baseball fans want to add the little ribbon towards the end of it, towards the end of the name as it loops back around. These were really hard to draw off using the pen tool, especially if you're trying to learn the pen tool, because you got to move around, and you want it to be just perfect, and it's got to be thicker on one end. Of course, I've had a lot more practice since then, but even still, it would look something like this. It just would never look right. Then Adobe updated Illustrator, and there's a new tool that they have that's so much better. It's called the Width tool. So I'm going to use my pen tool first again. I'm going to add a little scroll work to the end of this one. And all I'm going to do is draw one line. Tell you what, I'm even going to give myself a running start. So it starts off this way, scroll back around, maybe it ends off right here. So I've got a line drawn that's connected to the end of my M. What I'd like to do is to control the width of my line as it moves across here. And the tool I'm going to use is called the Width tool. If you look in the middle of your toolbox, if you don't see it, it's probably hiding under one of these warp tools. But if you hold Shift W, it'll pull itself up. With this one, I'll zoom into my line. I can click anywhere on my line and drag out. In this case, I'll do it at the end here. And it will adjust the width of my line specifically to there. And it'll taper itself down towards the end. So now I've got a line, one vector line that tapers all the way into here. If I zoomed into here, maybe I can adjust the width of this one to be the same size as the M. And anywhere that I place it, it's going to change the width of the line. And it's still a vector line, so I can move around this one and get it perfectly lined up, almost perfectly, with that one. And so now I've got a tail that follows this particular area. So if you wanted to recreate a filigree that looks something like this, take your pen tool. All I've got is a line selected. Start off, click and drag, and then drag out. You could probably do something really, let's see, I'll pull up. Let's see if I can get fancy with this. Pull up, down, 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 just like this. So I've got this crisscross kind of pattern. We'll even fix it up so it looks just right. There we go. Select the line, use the width tool, which is hiding in the middle of your toolbox. Then select where you want the width of it to be. In this case, I want the middle point to get thicker. And I want it to get thin on these edges. So we'll pull that in, down, thicker, then go back, make it thinner. Pretty cool. And all this is doing is changing the profile of the line that you're working with. Where have you seen the line profile before? You get the idea. So there it is, quickly drawn, something like that. That would have taken forever if I just had to use the pen tool. Do y'all remember where you see the line profile? We dealt with it when we did the ribbon work. I see you nodding your head. If you look at the very top, I'll draw off a pencil tool again. Up here, here's your line profile. Remember we changed it to that thick and thin? Well, there's the profile that you created. By the way, you can save this profile. For instance, you see how it's getting thicker and thinner? Well, if I hit, let's see, add to profiles, it'll ask me to give it a name. I'll just keep it the default. Now I've got this one saved, and I can go back to it if I wanted to redraw these lines again. So I'll even draw off just a straight line, and then choose my new profile to add to it. Let's make it thicker so we can actually see what we're working with. So as you're creating these, very simple, very easy to draw off your own type of patterns and recreate exactly what you want to fill in this particular area by using the width tool. Or you can find a font, or you can find vector image that somebody else has used from there. All cool? Alright, I'm going to turn it back over to you. If you have any questions about this one or any other projects that we're working on, just feel free to let me know. Like I said, today is the just going to be a work day, and also tomorrow, or excuse me, next class period we're going to do a